Hello, WEFTEC exhibitors. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us for today's new exhibitor web briefing. A couple quick housekeeping instructions before we start. We're going to cover a lot of content in a very fast pace. This is a hear it, see it, write it, and do it type web briefing. I encourage you to download the interactive workbook we emailed about an hour ago. If you did not see your email or you can't find it, look on your console. You'll see a tab that says Handouts. Click on the little arrow, click on the red Adobe icon, press print, and you'll have your workbook. You'll be in listen-only mode on audio, but you can and definitely should submit questions. So the moment a question flashes into your mind, look on your console, you'll see a tab that says Questions. Submit your questions and we will answer them during, and if we run out of time, we will follow up with any questions that you submit. If you have any technical issues, call GoToWebinar at 1-800-263-6317. Last but not least, the management team at WEF really wants your feedback on today's briefing. About 3, 4, 5 minutes after the webinar, you'll get an email with a link. Very short survey. It'll take you maybe 2 minutes. Please be sure to complete the survey. So with that, I would like to bring Stephanie Walter from WEFTEC on to start our web briefing today. Stephanie?
Hi, everybody. Once again, thank you for joining us for today's new exhibitor web briefing. We really appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your day to take advantage of this. As Jefferson said, my name is Stephanie Walter. I'm the Senior Manager, Exhibition Operations here at WEF. I've worked at WEF managing WEFTEC for about 9 years, and Jefferson and I have been putting on these web briefings for exhibitors probably for about that entire time. If we didn't mention this already, today's briefing will be recorded and will be available after today, probably in about a week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. New exhibitors are extremely important to WEF and to WEFTEC. They rank above one of the top reasons for attendees, seeing new products, seeing new exhibitors, and they keep our exhibit interesting and dynamic, and they reflect a growing part of the industry. So we are here to help you succeed at your exhibit at WEFTEC. That's why we are putting on this webinar today. We don't want to just have you have a booth. We want to give you the tools and the information that are going to help you have a great exhibit, not just at WEFTEC, but at any other conference that you are going to exhibit at. Part of those tools are the Exhibitor Success Resource Center. This is online in the Exhibitor Toolkit. The link is right there on the screen. We will also send that out. It's part of the downloaded materials that you have, and we can always send that to you later. We're going to go ahead and move forward with some of my suggestions for how to make this easy. You want to pay attention to your confirmation email that we send you with your booth. So many of the questions that you might have are going to be answered there. What is your booth number? What is the size of your booth? And a lot of email and other contacts and links are in there as well. You want to do your pre-show planning and marketing, which is going to make a huge difference in your success at the event. And that success is our shared responsibility. We are here to help you. We want to go ahead and get started with helping you navigate our exhibitor service manual. This is where you're going to find answers to everything from how do you order carpet, how tall is your booth, how do you find food or a bar to order for your booth, when is move-in, and can you have an animal in your booth? Spoiler, maybe. We have revamped the service manual recently to make each section its own link so that you can bookmark those sections and find what you need more quickly. For instance, to get to the display guidelines, you're going to want to click that View Details link on the Display Guidelines section, and that is going to take you to the Display Guidelines page. When you get to that Display Guidelines page on the next screen, you're going to see a scrolling section on the left, which is, again, going to show you things like animals or assigned space and activities. That's a scrolling menu, and within that scrolling menu, you're going to be able to click on each of those sections. We do encourage you to not just go to the section that you're looking for, we also encourage you to kind of read through each section so you can get an overview of all of the options and all of the information that is available in each section of the service manual. One of the key sections in the service manual is the deadlines, and we have deadlines for every month and every date leading up to WEFTEC, starting in May and going all the way up through September. These are just a few of the deadlines that we have posted, so you can get to those by going to the direct link to the deadline section. And again, these are just a few key deadlines that you can see coming up. We want to always give you those discount information deadlines like the August 1st early bird and that discount deadline for lead retrieval and for ordering your Freeman services. We want to now jump right into working with Freeman and some of the tips offered from Freeman about working with getting your freight to your booth. They want to let you know that whether you're shipping to the warehouse or direct to show site, it's important that your freight starts with a clean slate. You want to remove all of your labels from any prior shows. Freeman also recommends using the pre-formatted WEFTEC labels that are available on Freeman online. And again, those links are available through the service manual in the shipping section. If you do want to use your own labels, that all the same information is available from the pre-formatted labels, you want to use all that same information in the ones that you print. And then finally, when you show up on site, you want to be prepared to track your shipment with that pro number and that carrier information. So you want to have that at your disposal to help find out where your freight is if you need to do that. Moving on to material handling, the Freeman recommendations are consolidating your boxes and palletizing your freight to get that minimum fee, avoiding additional charges for specialty handling by using ground carriers rather than FedEx or UPS. You always want to pay attention to that warehouse deadline by using the deadline checklist. So in this case, for this year, it's September 10th. Freight arriving after that will incur a late fee. And then, of course, don't forget to handle your outbound material handling by turning in that MHA. For labor, it's a lot of the same information. You're going to want to make sure to pay attention to that discount deadline. We really can't say it enough. There's a discount deadline for almost everything. There's one for labor, there's one for ordering Freeman services, there's one for catering. So that discount deadline is almost always there and you want to pay attention to it. For labor, again, the information that you provide in advance is going to help them give you an accurate estimate. So you want to give them as much information as you can. And if you don't have it the first time, try to get it later and then give it to them the next time that you call. And finally, you want to avoid scheduling labor on things like weekends or overtime or double time. So you want to be aware of those rates and avoid scheduling your labor during those time periods. And finally, Freeman has in Freeman Online, they have kind of a go at your own pace program that you can just log in and look at. You go to Freeman Online, and then you can select the first-time exhibitor program from the services. And once you click on that first-time exhibitor program, it takes you to kind of an intermediate page where you have to find the text to click on it, which is right there circled in red, how to exhibit like an expert. And then it takes you to pages, which is a tutorial that will either autoplay or then you can move through it at your own pace. So that's one tool that is available at your disposal to get additional information from Freeman. Freeman also has an online mobile app that will help you track your orders, submit show site services, create your move out paperwork, and additional services through the mobile app. So this will actually help you while you're on site, and then if you happen to be away from your office. We are going to move on next to the Exhibitor Toolkit. This is a little bit less logistics and a little bit more marketing. So this kind of helps you with areas where you want to get noticed. The layout is a little bit similar to the service manual. So once again, it's distinct pages that you can bookmark for future reference. So in this case, if you want to say go to the marketing page, you're going to click on that link that says access marketing tools, and that's going to take you to the marketing page. Individual pages on the Exhibitor Toolkit are laid out a little bit differently from the service manual. So we'll take a look at that marketing page next. And you're going to see, like I said, that these pages are laid out a little bit differently. These are a little bit more like newspapers where we have kind of a headline and a sidebar. So that top of page is going to be kind of what's most current, most deadline specific. That pre-listing that has a current deadline, well, it's a little bit past right now, but you get the point. And then that sidebar is kind of a year-round content. It's something that is going to give you, in this case, the registration list. That's available year-round. And then if you scroll further down the page, you'll see something that is maybe not so timely, so sort of the below-the-fold information. And most of the toolkit is like that, with the exception of the ESRC. That's the Success Center. And everything on that is very important to you. So you just kind of want to go through the whole thing. These are some toolkit deadlines. And once again, these are in the service manual rather than having a separate deadline area in the toolkit. So these are just, again, some highlights of upcoming options that are available to you, as well as some very important ideas of your hotel rooming list and hospitality suite requests. And some of them are a little bit further out. So keep that deadline checklist in mind for anything that you would have coming up to make yourself visible at WEFTEC. And I think that was a pretty fast run through of how to get through the service manual, the Exhibitor Toolkit, and some of our tips from Freeman. So that brings us to the Q&A, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have some Qs.
Yes, Stephanie, Jefferson here. We do have a couple questions. The first one is, large shipments go direct to the convention center, right?
Not necessarily. Machinery will go direct to show site and vehicles will go direct to show site, but large palletized shipments can go either to the warehouse or to the convention center. Anything more specific than that, obviously we would want to talk about and figure out what you mean by large shipments.
There's a follow-up to that, which is large plastic tanks.
That would probably count as machinery, but I would want more information, which is probably my favorite line of all time.
Okay. The next question is, what does the booth setup process look like for exhibitors who plan to bring materials in their own vehicle and then set up on Sunday before the show?
So that changes from event to event. So it's different from Chicago to New Orleans. In Chicago, there is a very specific process. We have hours set up for that, and I'm going to want to give you a follow-up email to provide that specific information because I don't have the hours up in front of me. So if you can provide an email, I will follow up with you.
Okay, yeah, I definitely recommend the person who asked the question on the setup, because the variables would be like what size of booth. If you're in a 10 by 10 and you have a quick, like a pop-up booth that doesn't require any labor and you're not carrying a lot of stuff in, are exhibitors allowed to hand carry stuff into the convention center, Stephanie?
Yes, they are.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you. That's all I'm seeing for questions now, so we'll move forward. Stephanie and I have been working together. We just mentioned at the beginning of the call, probably 8 years now. The philosophy at the Water Environmental Foundation is, as Stephanie mentioned earlier, they really see their relationship with you as an exhibitor as a long-term partnership, and they see their goal as not just renting you space and kind of hoping it all works out, but providing you with ongoing educational content in all types of shapes and sizes, if you will. And I am really blessed and honored to be part of the WEF Exhibitor Success team for all these years. My background is pretty simple. 30 years now, trade shows. I got tossed into my first show in 1985. Became a student of exhibiting in 1988, and basically launched a trade show consulting and training firm in 1991. For me, I've always been on the hunt to try to answer one major question. What's the difference between two companies that essentially market the same type of products or services and have the same potential opportunity? And one of those companies has an incredible show, and the other one stands around or sits around in their booth watching the moving parade of life go by and ends up not getting the value they could get. And so my major business life question has been, how do we turn trade shows around from an expensive appearance, where you show up, you fly the flag, you scan some badges, you hand out some tchotchkes, and you go home? How do we turn that around into a productive, profitable investment? And I've been in a consulting training capacity with exhibitors of all types and sizes, including many WEFTEC exhibitors. And combined, we now can trace almost $800 million in measured results from trade shows. And so I think my role as part of the WEF Exhibitor Success team is to continually share the latest thinking and the best practices and make it visible and accessible to you as an exhibitor at the right times in the show cycle, so you have a productive and profitable event. Because Stephanie and I and Sasha and Pamela and the entire team really believe that unless you succeed, we don't succeed. And for many of you who do a lot of shows, this is a unique position. I mean, myself, honestly, I felt like the only time I heard from show organizers was when they wanted a check, or they wanted to sell me something, or they sent that service kit with all that stuff that I had to do. And so I promise you this, if the the water market is important to your company, you're in the right show. And if you're not getting the results you want, if you'll invest the time like you're doing today and follow up with all the content, what you can get over time will blow your mind. And that's really what we're working for. And one of the first shifts, in my book, Trade Show Turnaround, I talk about the perspectives of high-performing exhibitors. And one of those shifts is we have to shift from viewing WEFTEC as, 3 days out there in the future, having what I call an event perspective, to a campaign perspective. It's at least a 6-month process. And you have to be taking very decisive action, both logistically and operationally, as Stephanie talked about, all that stuff she just showed you, and strategically in the stuff that I'm going to show you, in all 3 time frames. There's a lot of stuff you got to be doing right now. And then you really got to manage the at-show phase well. And then you got to manage the post-show phase. And just like a chain, if you neglect or avoid any one of the links, the integrity of the chain is compromised. And so what we're looking for here is to make sure that you have the perspectives and access to the practices, so you do the right things at the right time frame, that you get maximum trade show results. The problem, in my experience, is, Stephanie showed you the logistical operational stuff. Unfortunately, for the average exhibitor, 95% of their pre-show time is spent on logistics and operations. What I mean by that is Rent a space, get the booth, get the graphics, get the products, assign the people, book the air, ship it to the show, set it up, tear it down, send it home, do all that on time and on budget, and call that pre-show planning. I don't really call that pre-show planning. I call it managing logistics and operations. And you have to do that, right? We get that. You've got to do that. But you've got to carve out some time to address the strategic side of the exhibiting game, because WEFTEC is a massive show. Stephanie, how many exhibiting companies are we expecting at WEFTEC this year?
Just over 1,000.
1,000 exhibiting companies. And from a net square footage perspective, how big is WEFTEC?
Net square feet, we're at about 300,000.
That's about 8 football fields, to put it in perspective, right? And so you got to make sure that if you're going to stand out from that crowd and you're going to get your fair share of traffic and ultimately leads and ultimately sales, you've got to make sure that you are addressing the critical exhibiting success factors. And that's what I've really been on the hunt for 30 plus years now is what are, if you're familiar with the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, which seems to show up everywhere in life, you come to understand that in any outcome, typically it's only 20% of the activities that deliver 80% of the results. And I think now, being able to trace about $800 million in results, I think we know what those 20% of factors are. And they're on the screen right in front of you. They're clearly defining your outcomes. They're using the principle of selective attraction, which we're going to talk about. They're managing the visitor experience, which is really going to come down to your booth, look, the feel, the graphics, the messaging, the access, the navigation, your product or your service presentation, how are you showing, telling, immersing, and engaging, and your staff under the visitor experience. And the fourth area is lead management, right? Because if you're not signing contracts on the show floor and you ever hope to get a real return on your investment, you've got to realize that the takeaway, the product that you walk off the show floor with is leads. And number 5, measurement, measuring your performance. How well did you execute your exhibit? What results did you generate? And learning from the experience. And the promise is that if you address these 5 areas thoroughly, you'll win, not only at WEFTEC, but at every show you do. The warning, if you neglect, avoid, skip over any one or any combination of these 5 factors, your results are going to be limited. And we don't want that to happen. Okay, so let me give a little more detail on what these are. And by the way, the content I'm going to come back to on the ESRC, there's about $20,000 of free content up there. But the beginning, right? The number one factor, people always ask me, how do you turn a trade show around? And to borrow the great Stephen Covey's phrase, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, habit number 2, begin with the end in mind. Clearly define your outcomes. What does success look like for you? When the doors close on WEFTEC, 90 days, 180 days down the line, in the areas of sales, marketing, and customer relationship management. And then not just having reasons, right? Like get some leads, build brand awareness, introduce a new product. It's fine. Those are all reasons. But write this phrase down. Very important. Reasons are not enough, right? You've got to take vague reasons and convert them into specific goals. And those goals have to be thought through. They have to be backed up with a workable action plan, right? So defining your outcomes is the key. Clarity is power. Focus is power. Knowing your outcomes is power. And strangely, only 1 out of 4 exhibitors in the average trade show in North America, only 1 out of 4 have a set of written goals backed up with a written action plan. If I stopped right now and said, we're not telling you anything else, and all you did was define your outcomes, create workable action plans, and execute, you would put yourself into the top 20% of exhibitors in every show you do. Number two, selective attraction. There are 1,000 plus exhibiting companies competing for the time and the attention of the WEFTEC attendee. So what you've got to do is understand that not everybody that attends WEFTEC is your ideal visitor. You've got to clearly define who your target visitor is. You have to analyze your products, your services to find your value proposition, meaning out of 1,000 booths, why should they come see you, right? And then you've got to execute a targeted pre and at show campaign to get enough of the right people to your booth. Number three, the visitor experience. It's going to come down again to your booth, your product demonstration, and your staff. You're going to have to really make sure that all three elements are synchronized, that you deliver a high quality interactive visitor experience that gets that qualified visitor to commit to a clear next action. Number four, as I mentioned, lead management. So you've got to really step back and go, what information do I need to capture about visitors to help us qualify the opportunity? And then you've got to develop a qualification process, meaning question and flow, and a capture device, a tool. And then you've got to train your staff. What you're looking for is information rich, meaning more than just what's embedded in the badge, with a committed next action. And then make sure that your dealers, your sales team, your distributors follow up on every lead that you get. Number five, measurement and learning. It's important to define, how do you know if you execute a great exhibit? What metrics are you using to assess your performance? What metrics are you using to assess the financial value that the show is delivering? And how are you measuring your ultimate return on investment? And for many of you, if you're a marketing manager or an exhibit manager, and your boss might come in someday and ask you and say, hey, we just spent $100,000 on WEFTEC. What do we get? You got to be armed to the teeth with answers to that question. And so that's what we want to guide you through with all of this. And finally, you should walk off of every show floor that you ever do with at least 3 clearly defined lessons. What you've learned that's going to help you get better and better at your next show, right? Because I promise you this right now, 30 years in this, 800 million in results, I will virtually guarantee that what you're getting right now, the odds are extremely high that you're only picking the low-hanging fruit. What you can get over time when you see trade shows properly and you execute them properly will absolutely blow your mind. And that's what we're going for here. So let's take our first stab at defining some outcomes here. What I want everybody on this web briefing to do is I want you to grab a pen and I want you to grab a calculator. I'm going to walk you through on how to calculate what I'm going to call your PSO, your potential sales opportunity. This is the same formula I've been using with my clients for 28 years now, and it's been directly responsible for the generation of close to 800 million in measured results. That being said, I have to say, from a legal standpoint, it's not a guarantee of results. There's a lot of variables, right? A lot of things are going to go into whether you hit this. But I will tell you this. If the numbers that you put into this formula are accurate, the results are fairly predictable. So let's do it. Grab your pen. Okay, so WEFTEC has 25 open exhibit hours. That is your opportunity. That's what you're buying, right? The opportunity to do what? Put your company, your products, your staff face-to-face with water industry professionals. 25 hours. That's it, right? Question. How many people, booth staff, are you going to have in your booth on average for those 25 hours? Write it down. Rule of thumb on the bottom of the screen, 50 square feet per staffer. So if you have a 10 by 10 and you tell me you're going to put 5 of your people in there, I'm going to tell you that you're going to have a problem. You're going to stand around and talk to one another for the entire show because your booth will be extremely overstaffed. Don't overstaff, don't understaff. So go ahead, write in the number of people, your staff that will be in the booth for the purpose of talking to visitors. Write that down right now. All right, next, listen carefully to this. I want you to set a target number of visitor interactions per hour per staffer. Excuse me. The range as a starting point is 3 to 5. 3 conservative. That means over the average hour you're standing in your booth, your staffer talks to 3 people. That's 20 minutes per interaction. That's conservative. The average interaction in a booth is 3 to 7 minutes, right? 4 interactions per hour, moderate. 5 interactions per hour per staffer, may be aggressive. I want you to pick a number between 3 and 5. The more experienced you are at exhibiting, the more you can lean toward the 5. The less experienced you are, lean toward the 3. Now you have possibly the most important number you will ever understand about exhibiting, because at the end of the day, write this down. Trade shows are about face and trade shows are about next. In this example, you have the capacity for 150 face-to-face, one-to-one interactions in your booth. If you don't like the number, change the variables. Can you change the number of hours in the show? No, they're fixed. Can you change the number of booth staff? Maybe. Don't overstaff, don't understaff. Can you change the number of interactions per hour per staffer? Definitely. Good pre-show marketing, a well-designed exhibit, a well-trained booth staff can definitely move you up into the 5, maybe even more than 5 per hour. But as a starting point, I want you to define your exhibit interaction capacity, because this is your first goal. This is a hard goal for the show. During the show, we will attract and interact with at least 150 of these types of visitors. Now, listen carefully. Some percentage of your interactions are going to convert to an opportunity or a lead. The Center for Exhibition Industry benchmark is 1 out of 4. Use that as a starting point. In that example, you would have a firm lead goal of 38 qualified leads by closing time. If you don't like the number, you can change the percentage. The better you do at targeting the right people and getting more of the right people to your booth, the higher your conversion is going to be to leads. Start at 1 out of 4. Now, some percentage of those leads are going to convert to a customer or an order. The Center for Exhibition Industry benchmark is 20%, 2 out of 10. In that example, right, and this would be a combination if you do anything at show. So this would be either orders or customers. Okay, so now, after the show, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 8 new customers or 8 sales orders, however you want to define that. Next, talk to your accounting department. Ask them this question. What is our average sale amount, 1, or what is the average value of a customer to our company? Either or. I'm going to use sale amount. I'm going to say you have a $10,000 average sale amount. Therefore, your PSO, using this formula, would be $80,000. Okay? So if you're in a small exhibitor in a 10 by 10 and you invested $12,000 in the show and you generated $80,000 of measurable revenue over time, did you get a return on investment? I would say so, a good return. Okay, so here's what's the great news. Over 12,000 water professionals will be entering the exhibit hall. For you to win, all you got to do in this example, is get 150 of the right people to your booth. This makes your life so much easier, right? You don't have to worry about what your competitors are doing or how big or small your booth is. Focus on getting enough of the right people to your booth. Convert 1 out of 4 to opportunity. Convert 2 out of 10 leads to business. And that's how you financially win the game of exhibiting. Now, what I'd like you to do quickly, go to your question tab right now, everybody. I want you to just type your exhibit interaction capacity, that first number that I'm pointing to on the screen, this 150. Type that in and send it to me. I want to see the range of that. I also want to make sure you understand the formula here. This is the numbers. The numbers tell the story, right? This is a scientific approach to predicting your outcomes. If the numbers you put in are accurate, this formula is amazingly accurate. All right. Now, how are we going to get you there? That's the question. Remember earlier, right? Stephanie showed you the Exhibitor Success Resource Center. There's a 5-step content consumption plan. Number 1, we have 3 downloadable tools. They've been developed and used in the real world with exhibitors for 20 plus years. They've helped generate 800 million in results. Grab them. They're free. And they're completely customizable. 2, we have put 5 timed pre-show planning exercises with the time frames for you to complete them. Grab them. Block 90 minutes, one at a time. Don't do them all in one setting, one at a time at the recommended time frames. Gather your team, take 90 minutes to do the exercise. 3, we have a ton of webinars up there. So watch the webinars that speak to the exercise, the planning, the promotion, the booth, all of that. For more information, read the articles. And finally, you have the ability to hit a button, send a question to me and a team of my team of 10 trade show experts to answer any productivity questions you have for free. That's your content consumption plan. Follow it. Here's the tool, one of the tools, the exhibiting cost control tool. Download it, use it. Now, as a new exhibitor, we're going to do something completely out of the box for you. We're going to visit your booth in action at the show. We're going to do a 21-point evaluation scoring your exhibit, and we're going to prepare a professional 5-page report showing you what you're doing well so you can keep doing it and where your areas of improvement lie. Be sure to watch for your report after the show and be sure to read it. And by the way, hey, when we're on the show floor, if you're open to it and we see anything that you can change right now and you're open to it, we'll point it out. We want you to win this game. We understand it takes knowledge, it takes execution, it takes time. So all new exhibitors will be receiving the E3, which won the award for the best program to help exhibitors maximize ROI. All right, so let me close my part here with some warnings and some mistakes. Sometimes the easiest way to succeed is just don't make the mistakes that so many exhibitors make. Stephanie said it in 5 different ways, 20 different times. Consume the exhibitor service manual. Every mistake, every headache, every hassle, every cost overrun probably could have been prevented. Take the time. I know it takes time. It's not exciting reading, but it is highly valuable reading. Read the kit. Number 2, you might be a small exhibitor and you might say, wow, there's going to be 12,000 water professionals here. If I don't get at least 500 leads, I failed. Well, if you ran our formula, you saw that you never really had the capacity to get 500 leads. So make sure your expectations are in touch with reality by following the planning exercises we give you. Number 3, remember what I said earlier, reasons are not enough. I want you to walk into the show with 3 clearly defined goals in writing, backed up with a written action plan. Number 4, please be careful about thinking you're going to succeed because you're located in this or that place on the show floor, or blaming your booth location for success or failure. Quantitative and qualitative research by exhibit surveys has validated they can make no direct link between the physical location of a booth on a show floor and the ultimate return on investment. So your location is not the number one factor that's going to make you succeed. Number 5, don't exhibit by hope, meaning rent space, show up, and hope. You've got to pre-market your exhibit to the right people. Number 6, you can do all that stuff right, but if your exhibit, I can't tell what you do by looking at it. You got a big old table across the front. I can't get into your space. It's going to be a problem, right? So it can fall apart right there. And by the way, your E3 report is going to help you tremendously in that area. And excuse me, by the way, we also have standout exhibit reports up on the Exhibitor Success Resource Center, photographs of exhibits that are well done that you can go to and learn best practices. Number 7, that standout report. Give careful thought to how you're going to show, tell, demonstrate, present. Number one way attendees want to interact with exhibits is through presentation demonstrations. Number 8, your booth staff. You can do everything right, but if you got people who are looking and acting like they don't want to be there, they're sitting in the back of your booth with a Starbucks in one hand and a cell phone in the other, it's going to fall apart right there. Number 9, lead capture. Either not capturing enough information and or not following up. And number 10, judging the value of WEFTEC too quickly. As I said earlier, if you market to the water industry, you're absolutely in the right show. If that industry is important to you and you don't get results, I know this is not easy to hear, but I'm going to call it right out. The show's not the problem. Just saying, the show's not the problem. If this is the industry for you, you're absolutely in the right show, but you've got to do more than just logistics and operations. So with that, I'm going to bring Stephanie back on to close us out with a few more tips and ideas. Stephanie, back to you.
All right. So one of our very top questions that we get from not only new exhibitors, but longtime exhibitors is how to make sure that they are listed under the right categories in the mobile app. The way to do that is to make sure that you submit those categories to us through the exhibitor directory form. The link is up here on the screen. It is also in the exhibitor toolkit. So this form will make sure that your keywords, which is actually the more powerful search in our new app, as well as your categories are listed in the mobile app. We're also more than happy to walk you through that. The next slide actually shows the way that app displays the listing. So as I mentioned, that search is the more powerful tool within the new app, and you'll see that in this instance, the search was for analytical, and that keyword is highlighted in the search bar and then in the directory description itself. And this is actually a kind of a model directory. It has a nice long description. It's got all the categories and everything in it. So this is kind of what we want a good booth description and listing to look like. The next of our main questions we get is downloading the official registration list. This is done through the booth personnel registration portal. That login information is emailed to the key contact, the exhibitor key contact, and that registration list is available once you log in. Any issues with logging into that page we can assist you with, or there is a help right there on the main screen. So once you log in, on the next page you'll see something that is not, absolutely not, an official registration list. This is a solicitation that was sent to probably many exhibitors, but one exhibitor in particular, and was forwarded to us. And you'll see a couple of red flags that show up. First of all, it was a solicitation. Our registration vendor, Experian, will never do this. And in fact, nobody associated with WEF or WEFTEC will ever do this. The registration list is free, and you have to go actively download it. Everything about this is wrong. There is no fee associated. the attendee count is wrong, found your company listed is wrong. So this is actually posted on our registration list page under the marketing tab in the Exhibitor Toolkit. We encourage you to go look at it. So this is just an example of one of the things that exhibitors frequently get, and we strongly recommend that you just pay no attention to it whatsoever. Moving along, third top question is about official housing. WEF's official housing vendor is CMR. CMR also will never solicit you directly and offer you specific housing rates. Our official housing is only available either through weftec.org or through direct email from WEF specifically. This site displayed here is in fact our official housing site. And you can kind of tell because it's extremely boring, and it says things about advanced priority housing processes and talks about a room block request form and has a whole lot of important deadlines. If you take a look at our next slide, you will see a list of fake housing sites that we have listed on our website that will kind of direct you to who to absolutely not pay attention to. That whole list is either companies that we know have solicited exhibitors and attendees, but mostly exhibitors, as well as a couple of sites down there on the bottom that we know for a fact are fraudulent. Be very careful when booking your housing. Only book through CMR. If in doubt, contact us and ask. I don't know how many more ways I can put that or emphasize that, so I think I'll stop there. And I think that's the end of that little section, other than this set of useful links, which we also offer in, again, that confirmation email, and are happy to send to anybody who asks, but obviously they are also part of the briefing handout, so you should have these available to you now.
All right, Stephanie, thank you. Wow, we have covered a lot of ground. We're running a few minutes over. Hopefully this webinar has really kind of taken you inside of kind of the ins and outs of exhibiting at WEFTEC and spotlighted a lot of resources really that can help you plan, execute, and get tremendous results from WEFTEC. I'm going to open up the question queue right now. Again, I imagine some of you may jump off right now. Two big takeaways. Bookmark the Exhibitor Success Resource Center. Share it with everybody on your team. Access it frequently because we're always updating it. And number two, about 10 minutes from now, you'll receive an email with a link. Give us some feedback on the web briefing today. It's really important. WEFTEC's one of those unique organizations that invests in your ongoing education, and they'd really love your feedback. So while I take a look in the question queue, Stephanie, are there any kind of like final thoughts or additions you'd like to add to the content we shared today?
We do still have an FAQ up in the Exhibitor Service Manual, and we continue to add to that as we get frequent questions. So any questions that come up from this webinar or that we don't get to during this time period that come up either by email, we will add to that. And then obviously anything that we have right now that maybe we don't get to immediately, we will answer by email.
Okay, we got a few questions coming in, Stephanie. The first one is about lodging or housing for their booth staff. What's the best way for the exhibitor to schedule housing or lodging for their staff?
The best way is to go back to go to weftec.org, and under the Attend tab, they will find the housing information.
Okay, thank you. The next question would be, is the attendee list, is it a one-time only download, or is it updated as we get closer? Can they download multiple times?
it can be downloaded as often as they want. It is available post-show for 1 year.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Everybody listening, I work with a lot of shows, and fewer shows are giving attendees access to the exhibitors access to the attendees. Take advantage of that. That's an incredibly valuable list. And drill it down and be sure to use it in your pre-show marketing. Another question, Stephanie, what opportunities are available for an exhibitor to have a presence beyond outside of their stand in terms of sponsorship, advertising? Where would exhibitors learn more about pre-show marketing opportunities, pre and at show?
So obviously a good place to start is the Toolkit. Under that marketing tab, we have a great program called VIP Guest Invites, which we'll be launching next week, and that will go out to all exhibitors directly. We have a very robust sponsorship program that is available at all access levels to exhibitors. And then we do obviously also have a very robust advertising program. Those, again, if you're looking at the screen, you will see that sponsor advertise tab, and all of those opportunities are available there. And then if all else fails, give us a call, give me a call, and I will be happy to answer questions and direct you to the right person.
All right, thank you. Next two questions I think are in my wheelhouse. What are some examples of good goals for exhibitors to set? So going back to our exhibit interaction capacity, each one of those can be a goal. Identify and attract at least 150 of this type of facility, these job functions and titles that do this process in these geographical regions. Another good goal, so that would be a goal. Execute at least 150. Another one would be convert at least 1 out of 4 visitors to a qualified lead. Another one would be convert at least 2 out of 10 leads to a customer or a sale. Those are examples. And there's a lot more goals. There's about 100 areas you could set goals in. So if I was going to set a lead goal, for example, this is how I would write it. By closing time, we will capture at least 38 qualified leads. By qualified, I mean they are information rich. We've captured more information than just what's embedded in the badge, and we've got the visitor to collaborate and commit to a clear next action step. See how much depth's in that? And for any one of those, brand awareness, to make sure that our company brand identity is in front of our audience in at least 5 touch points before and during the show through multiple media. Like that. Use the acronym that we call SMART goal: specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. SMART goal. Okay. The next question is the booth evaluation something we need to sign up for, or does it happen automatically for new? If you're a new exhibitor, it happens automatically. You will get reminder emails closer to showtime with attachments to a 9-step and an ebook, but it happens automatically. If you're a new exhibitor, we're going to come see you automatically, so you don't have to sign up for that. Let's see, what else do we have before we wind down? We got another question, Stephanie. I think this may be in your wheelhouse. It says, we are shipping to the warehouse. It's a live product of a sewage treatment plant. It fits in a standard pallet and a 200-kilogram weight. What forms do we need to fill, and how much would that cost? This sounds like a question, a person who asked that should probably be taken offline. Your question is very detailed. We absolutely want to ask it. So, Stephanie, when we send the login list, watch for that question on the. It's a very detailed question, and it's probably beyond the scope that we have the time to get into on the call here. Okay. So with that, I am not seeing any more questions. I just want to say a few things in closing. First of all, thank you for the trust and the confidence you place in WEF and exhibiting at WEFTEC. Stephanie, Sasha, Pamela, the entire team, no one takes your business for granted. We all want the same thing. We want you to succeed. Number 2, thank you for the time you spent with us today. Keep growing, keep learning. Things are changing fast, and most importantly, my final thought here is that it's not what you heard that's going to make the difference in your ultimate results. it's going to be what you do. So review this content, work through the 5-step consumption plan on the Exhibitor Success Resource Center. Spend time with the Exhibitor Toolkit, the service kit. And finally, just know that the entire WEFTEC team is at your disposal. You got questions, fire away. That's all I've got. Stephanie, anything else?
No, you really did cover it. We are here to help. Feel free to call us. Our contact information is available, and we are at your disposal.
All right, everybody. So thanks for logging in. This concludes our WEFTEC New Exhibitor web briefing. We've got another webinar coming up here on the topic of how small exhibitors can get their fair share, which is on Wednesday, July 17th. And we're doing another webinar on social media for trade shows on July 24th. You will be receiving invitations to both of those webinars. So on behalf of Stephanie and the entire WEF management team, Jefferson and my team at Competitive Edge, have a great day. We look forward to seeing you at the next webinar and, of course, at WEFTEC. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for logging in, everybody.